tucks in and runs. Zach Wilson's loose. Zach Wilson's running. He's got all day. He stays in bounds. Zach Wilson cuts it. Zach Wilson gets in the end zone for the touchdown. Yo, what is good, Jets Nation? Welcome back to another Jets Media live stream. Today, I am joined by Ali, who is currently in Alabama Mobile, who's been at the Senior Bowl practices all week. And we're going to give you guys our Senior Bowl report. As you guys know, the Jets coaching staff is there. Robert Salah is there. Ron Middleton is the active head coach. We got a lot to get into in terms of what's going on down in Alabama with the New York Jets in the Senior Bowl. We got Ali giving us some inside information. So, guys, welcome into the stream. Make sure you smash that like button on your way in. Do not forget to subscribe to the channel if you want to help me get to 10,000 subscribers. I'm this close. And also, don't forget to check out Ali's YouTube channel. That's down below in the description as well. So, Ali, how you doing today, man? How's Alabama? How's the Senior Bowl? How you feel, my man?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Today we got a little bit of more rest today. It was because of the weather here. They had to move it indoors, so there's very little media. But they gave us access to watch a little bit of the stuff on virtually. So I've just been watching here and there for today. But today has been a little bit more of a chill day compared to the last 2 days. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of guys that I feel on the Jets team could be a near Jet after in the draft. I think they like a lot of these guys. A lot of guys impressed. A lot of guys that I didn't think surprised me and shocked me. And a lot of these guys took the opportunity to make their mark on teams. There's a lot of scouts. There's a lot of coaches there. Mike Tomlin was there. There's a lot of guys. Marino was there. I mean, all these guys are there watching these guys play football. So a lot of these young guys have stepped up in the last 3 days, and they're going to make a push on making their draft stock go a little bit up. And you literally saw that happen for a lot of these guys, which was really impressive.
Yeah, there's so many things to get into. The Jets obviously have the advantage out of other teams besides the Detroit Lions. They're getting an up-close personal perspective of all these seniors that are at the Senior Bowl, getting their tendencies. And Robert Salah spoke to the media. Ali actually got a chance to speak to Robert Salah himself, shook his hand. That's pretty dope, Ali. So we're going to hear from Robert Salah. He spoke to the media the other day, and I really want you guys to hear this quote. You guys probably already saw it by now, but I want to break it down because what Robert Salah had to say about what he is looking out for the most with these players at the Senior Bowl is really awesome to hear. So let's tune into Robert Salah real quick.
We've always said you could hide at the combine, but in a week's worth of work, it's a lot harder to hide. So one of the things, the biggest thing is going to be mental, their ability to absorb the playbook. So we bring in a playbook that's not so hard that they can't get it because you only got a week to install it, but we also don't want it to be so easy where you don't get the information you need with whether or not they can absorb the information you're giving them. So the mental part is really, really, really big on how much they can grasp and how quickly they can grasp it, because if you think about an NFL game plan, it's changing every week. So this is basically like an NFL game plan. But the other part to it is this: you'll see it in terms of there's going to be adversity for these kids this week. Someone's going to drop a ball, they're going to miss a block, and they're going to feel. I mean, think about the pressure that is on all these young men to perform their job, and under this light, under this pressure, when they make a mistake, what do they look like? How do they respond? Can you pick something up that tells you that when he gets to New York and he gets pounded for something, can he handle it? And that's a real thing. So it's those are all things we're always looking at.
So my biggest takeaway from what Robert Salah had to say there is there's a lot of good things to take away from that. I absolutely love that Robert Salah is making sure that himself, the Jets front office, the Jets coaching staff, The one thing that they're looking at the most is the mental ability of these young players, because that's the most important piece of the puzzle in terms of being an athlete. They're not really worried about the physical talents, because we all know that you can be as physically gifted as possible, but if you're not all there mentally, if you cannot process an NFL playbook, if you do not have the passion for the game, you're not going to be successful. And we've heard Robert Saleh say that over and over again. And he's also looking at guys, he's excited to see how they handle themselves during adversity. And that's such an important piece to what Robert Saleh's values are as a head coach, which I personally love. I remember before his first season as a Jets head coach in August around training camp, he said, I cannot wait for adversity. That's going to be a really good time for us to grow as a team, because we're a young team with a lot of young players. And when we do get punched in the mouth, how are we going to react? Because, and I also love that he had to bring up the fact that they are in the New York market. He understands how it's so hard to win in a market like the New York media. By, anything negative that happens, it just explodes 10 times the amount because of the passionate fan base that we have. The media is crazy. We all know that. So the fact that Robert Saleh is aware of these things and understands how important the mental aspect is of the game of football is going to go a long way. And I personally thought that was awesome, which is why I want to show you guys this. So Ali, what was your thoughts about what Robert Saleh had to say there and what he's looking for in particular with these players at the Senior Bowl?
Yeah, I feel like he's, we've all known him as a person that has, he's got the love of the players, and he connects with the players. And I feel like, I forgot who said it when they were doing their press media on the media. A player literally said, the question was like, how is it like working with Robert Saleh, him coaching you? And the only thing he said is all gas, no brake. So even the young guys know his slogan, they respect him, and he's finding, something that he can relate with the players, and make them more comfortable as the Senior Bowl goes. When he said that, the people are going to have drops, people are going to drop the ball. Yesterday it was raining, so a lot of people were dropping the ball. And he's like, let's see what happens in the next rep. Are they gonna, continue to suck, or are they gonna like pick it up and be able to produce and impress these guys? And I feel like a lot of these guys improved themselves throughout the Senior Bowl as it went through. Some guys just stayed solid the entire way, but a lot of guys were just making do of. I really do like this coaching staff. I think that they trust. Especially with the young guys, first of all, they get a chance on their own team for the New York Jets to look at, and all these college kids are there with them, learning together. Some of them never have seen each other ever, and they're working together, building a bond, especially for the league, so they can have a bond that they were there together at the Senior Bowl and stuff like that. So I think the coaching is doing what they can to keep these guys comfortable, keep them in the zone, and just in the end of the day, have fun.
Yeah, exactly. Have some fun. And you see the mic'd up videos of Ron Middleton, the active head coach for the Jets. As you guys know, Ron Middleton very well. He's the Jets tight end coach. He filled in for Robert Saleh when he had COVID during the season, and he actually led the Jets to a victory over the Jaguars. So he's getting head coach experience. Leon Washington, I believe, is playing as the special teams coordinator, the former Jet. I absolutely love that he's on the Jets coaching staff. And you see the mic'd up clip that the Jets just posted on the social media. It was really cool to see Leon Washington out there. So, Ali, when you're at these practices, what really stands out the most with you with the Jets coaching staff in particular? How do they look? Are they engaged? Do they look like a competent coaching staff? I know that it's hard to really tell just from a perspective of looking in the stands, but how do you think they're attacking the Senior Bowl, and what is the perception around the league of how the New York Jets coaching staff looks going into year number 2 and being with these young kids at the Senior Bowl?
So I've been to Jets practices, training practices, and I kind of thought in my head and tried to compare it to the Senior Bowl practices. And what I saw is the intensity is still there. These coaches are bringing it all they got in their hand. Like, they're doing how they would train the New York Jets. You saw these guys get a real experience of how an NFL practice is. There's all these guys, trying to adjust to the NFL and be ready for it. And there's a perfect chance for them to adjust and get ready for it. And they're doing the same warm-ups. They're doing the same drills. They're doing the same team drills. They're doing everything that you can see in an NFL team, which is very nice. It was very awesome to see. The coaching staff is very animated. You can hear them from the stands as well. When you're reporting, you hear the defensive line coach, the cornerback coach. You see Middleton running around through all the positions and seeing how they're doing. So I think all these guys are really animated. They're ready to work, and I really like the change up of like Robert Salah not being the head coach, and bringing Middleton in. I mean, he gets. There's a lot of people saying that a lot of these guys are not going to get head coaching opportunities, but like if they see them coaching right now in the Senior Bowl, they possibly could, So and Middleton, it is 1-0 in the NFL. So yeah, I think that overall the atmosphere is there, especially for the Lions too. The Lions as well. The Lions also were animated. They're also going in at it. So I think the coaching staffs have been doing a great job getting these guys ready.
That's awesome, man. I feel like it's a great opportunity for the New York Jets coaching staff to get their hands on these players and to coach these guys up. And it's also awesome that we got some assistant coaches getting some experience in some jobs that they're not really accustomed to, like Ron Middleton being a head coach once again, and all these other assistants getting their opportunity to see what it's like actually being a real coach in the NFL at another level. So, guys, welcome into the stream. We're just getting started on today's Senior Bowl report. As you guys know, the Jets coaching staff are there. They are coaching one side of the ball. On the Senior Bowl, and Ali is down in Alabama. He's been to all the practices, and he's given us an inside look of what he's seen from the Jets Senior Bowl perspective. I want to show a tweet that we got from Connor Rogers. That's really interesting, Ali, and I want to hear your thoughts about it as well. Let me just pull it up real quick so people can see what I am talking about. It's from Connor Rogers of Bleacher Report, and here it is. Let me just take the Senior Bowl logo down so we could actually read it. Richie, what the heck is this? All right, so Connor Rogers says, the most consistent chatter I hear with the Jets this offseason is their awareness of needing to build around the young quarterback, not content until there's a surplus of weapons and a powerhouse offensive line in place. They know if they fail to do that, nothing else matters. Premium assets equals offense. So this is a very interesting report. Guys, in the chat, I want to hear your thoughts about what this means and what you think it will mean for this approach of the offseason. Does this mean the Jets are going to go all offense early in the draft? Does it mean they're going to open up the bank for some free agents for in the offensive side of the ball? Are they going to be aggressive and pursue people in the trade market? You never know. But what this tells me is that the New York Jets are going to make sure they do everything possible with the capital that they have to surround Zach Wilson with the weapons in order to be a successful quarterback in this league. So the point where Zach Wilson has absolutely no excuse but to be a good quarterback, and you can't say, well, he didn't have this weapon, well, he didn't have this protection. That should be the goal. Joe Douglas should absolutely spoil Zach Wilson with weapons and spoil him with a powerhouse offensive line. So I absolutely love this approach. I understand that the Jets were the last team in the league in defense last year. I think that the coaching staff has a lot of work to do. I think there's a lot of players that need to stay healthy, number one, for that defense. But me personally, I think the offense should continue to be the focal point because the Jets have not had a franchise quarterback, obviously, since Joe Namath. We all know that. And the number one biggest priority for this team, in my opinion, is the progression, is the development of Zach Wilson. And the only way you can actually do that is by surrounding this man with all your premium assets for this offseason. So, Ali, what's your thoughts about this Connor Rogers tweet? Do you think this means that they're going to go heavy offense in the draft? Connor Rogers says that he expects them, and if he was them, he would do offensive line at 4, wide receiver at 10, and then a tight end in the second round. So 3 of the top 4 picks being offense. So what's your thoughts about that approach? And do you think the Jets are going to go heavy offense in the draft?
Yeah, after seeing this team right now, I feel like they were more engaged, especially Joe Douglas was more engaged with the offense side of things. He was talking to offensive linemen, he was talking to wideouts, he was talking to running backs. He was more engaged with that. So I think in that perspective, I think I do think that approach is pretty good. So just to name a few, for the offensive linemen, Zion Johnson has been my favorite prospect for the last 2-3 weeks since I studied him, and he showed it even more at the Senior Bowl. You saw him. So he's mostly a left guard and right guard. That's what he was listed as, and that's what he played in college. But I think they moved him this time around. They played him at center, and he was excelling at center. He was dominating at center. He also took reps after practice in the rain yesterday. And that's the type of players that teams want and when they see stuff like that of a player standing back, trying to do new position and getting better at it. So I think he's one of the guys that I feel like all Jet fans should have an eye on, especially second, third round if we can grab him. Another guy is Trevor Penning. You probably guys all have heard of him. A lot of people tweeted out, Connor Hughes tweeted out, and we all saw it at the training camp. Joe Douglas was talking to him for a long, long time. When he would go in, do his reps, he would come back, and Joe Douglas would still be talking to him. So I think Joe Douglas was very engaged with the offensive linemen. We all know he likes the offensive linemen. He just likes drafting them and talking to him. So I think he was trying to give him pointers and see what he can get out of him. He was pretty much like a test. I feel like that he was trying to like engage with them in a way and having long conversations with them. So I think the offensive line perspective, I think it was exceptional for what they're seeing. And I think there's some good talent that we're at the Senior Bowl.
Yeah, I think a lot of people that have been to the Senior Bowl, Ali, for the practices, and you can confirm this or not, that Joe Douglas has been looking at this offensive line group big time. He sits back, he's looking at the offensive line, he's looking at the tight ends. So what have you seen from Joe Douglas just in terms of where is his focus in the Senior Bowl? Is there any specific positions that he's really looking out for the most? Or is he all over the place and he's looking at every single position where you can't really tell that there's any priority heading into this season, and especially with Robert Salah as well? Is there any position group in particular that you think that Joe Douglas is keeping an eye on the most in the Senior Bowl?
Yeah, it's definitely, first of all, it's definitely on the offense. I feel like the offense he's just been staring at since the first day of practice. Obviously the offensive line, but I feel like he's engaged with the tight ends a lot. I think the tight ends he's keeping an eye on. I have a feeling that they love McBride. I talked to a couple of people there, and they said that McBride could be a first round pick.
No, second round to us.
But if the Jets want to get him, trade down from 10, or they trade back into the first round to get him, because it was exceptional. He was playing like a tight end that we thought he was living up to the hype pretty much. What we saw from him is he was a better receiver than wide receivers. He was catching everything. He was catching in the rain. His footwork was there. He was good at blocking. And he was just very engaged the entire time, which is really hard to get in a tight end. I feel like McBride is like a perfect tight end. I feel like he's just there. The hype is there, and he's like ready to go. Nothing against Ruckert, because Ruckert actually played very well, and he could be a good fit in the Jets offense as well. But what I saw from Ruckert was his smooth route running, his catching ability, his blocking ability. But McBride was just more of a spotlight type player there at the tight end position. But I do feel like if they want to go a tight end and they really want a tight end, try to get McBride, because McBride is legit. McBride is a guy that would turn around your offense completely. He's good in blocking. He does whatever you please for that team. So I think their focus was, I feel like, on tight end. And if they have a chance at getting McBride, they'll 100% take it, because I feel like the 100%, what I got from talking to people, 100% want him.
Yeah, so that's really interesting news right there. I think every single Jets fan loves to hear that, because I think he's probably one of the players in this draft class that every single Jets fan agrees we need to make sure that he is on the Jets next year in this year's draft class, whether that's early in the second round or potentially if they have to trade up to get him, do it, Joe Douglas. We have the ammunition necessary, and that's such a big hole for this Jets offense is the tight end group. And I feel like Trey McBride, the unfortunate thing is that his draft stock is rising, so maybe he might not be there. I think the one team that I'm scared for the most of taking him before the Jets is actually the Jaguars right before us in the second round, because they have the first pick in the second round. They need a big tight end for Trevor Lawrence, so I would not be shocked if the Jaguars look to get him before us. So that's going to be up to Joe Douglas and the Jets front office. If they really want to make sure they can snag McBride, do they trade up ahead of the Jaguars, or do they like another tight end like a Ruckert or all these other guys that are really good? I mean, this tight end class is so deep, and I feel like it's going to be really fun to see which tight end we get, because there's no doubt in my mind that Joe Douglas will be drafting a tight end in this year's draft class early. So another question I have for you, Ali, is who are outside of Trey McBride that we just went over, who are some players in the Jets Senior Bowl roster that you think that they could draft?
So I would say a couple of Cincinnati players from Cincinnati University. Kobe Bryant, cornerback. He locked up guys. You know, he was locking up. You probably saw, some of you guys probably saw videos of him on Twitter, but he was locking up guys. He was on point with, and he just stayed with his assignment. He had his hands up. He wasn't touching, no flags, no nothing. And he was with these receivers. Yesterday, they had actual refs. They didn't have that the first day, but they had a second day. And even on those drills, he was not called for many flags, maybe one or two here and there, but that was very questionable. But you know, he was on the ball. He was ready to go with the wide receiver, and he was locking down these receivers. Not the best receiver. I feel like if Dobson was there, that would be a good challenge to see with Kobe Bryant a little bit. But obviously he was not there. But you know, he's a guy that I would take because the Jets do need help at the quarterback position. We all know that. We do have Bryce Hall who's developing. We have some young guns. But get another guy that, you know, can go in there and maybe make some plays for your team. Another guy is
Real
Alec
quick,
Pierce.
real quick
Yeah.
before you get into it, the next play, I have a question about Kobe Bryant. Do you think that he could be a target for the Jets in the 3rd round, 4th round? Where do you think he's going to really go in this year's draft class?
It definitely just depends on how it plays out. I could see. I've talked to people. They said like 3rd, 4th round. Is where he is supposed to go. If he has a good Senior Bowl, like the actual game Senior Bowl, he might jump up to the 3rd. But he can also jump into the 2nd round. Like he's that good. His length of where he can drop and where his ceiling is the 2nd round. Like he can go in the 2nd round, late 2nd round, mid 2nd round. But it's more like 3rd or early 4th, if anything, in my eyes. But he's definitely a 2nd round talent if someone wants to take a shot on him.
Interesting. So what are some players that you like to see the Jets draft?
I don't know if we need a running back later on, but I do think we should add a running back at some point. Jerome Ford from Cincinnati as well. He was busting out runs all weekend. I doubt the Jets will draft him, just because of where he will be placed in the draft or where he falls. But he was busting out runs. He has some nice route running too with catching the ball. So I think he's probably one of my best running backs that were at there. But there's a couple other guys that you can probably get in the later rounds that I actually said. It was Dameon Pierce from Florida. He was busting out runs. He was a definition of busting out runs, man. He was the thing with him. He has great agility, great footwork. He has great vision. I feel like every time he was running with the ball, he always looked up and saw whether the defender, so he can pick what route he wants, which lane he wants to go to. But I got to put in consideration that the defensive line was dominating the offensive line all 3 days. It was as that simple. The defensive line was stacked, and the edge rushing was stacked too. So I feel like these running backs had broke some runs out, but like you also got to consider that the defensive line was pretty damn solid. So to see those running backs like make those moves and get that much yardage on every play was a fun thing to see. Dameon Pierce and then Brian Robinson Jr. from Alabama, he had some great runs as well. He was also good in catching the ball. So there was a lot of running backs, especially on the offensive side. There was a lot of targets for the Jets.
So what's your thoughts about Zion Johnson? That's a big-time target that a lot of Jets fans want maybe in the 2nd round. Maybe he could be the franchise right guard for the New York Jets if he falls to us. Do you think that the Jets should be interested in drafting a guy in Zion Johnson?
Yeah, 100%. He's a Joe Douglas type player. He's a guy that is literally – so when you look at him, like I said earlier in the stream, he was supposed to be a left guard or a right guard. He really never played center as much, like effectively. And they kind of just put him at center during the Senior Bowl, and he was excelling at it. He was very good. He was blocking very well, and then you would see him after practice. Yesterday, when it was raining, it was pouring rain. After practice, he stayed to take reps in the rain. He was on the sidelines taking reps, and I think that's a player that that's what the Senior Bowl is all about. You're trying to impress these scouts. You're trying to impress these teams. Those type of stuff will, show what you're trying to do and what you're trying to achieve. And I think Zion Johnson would be a great locker room guy. I think he's a great guy that you can move him around if you really need him to. But he's an offensive line that, he's durable. He's, he doesn't get many flags called on him. And I think he's ready to work as soon as he gets on a football team.
That's great. That's great news. Zion Johnson is becoming one of my favorite players to look out for in the Senior Bowl. Guys, welcome into the stream. If you're new, don't forget to smash that like button. We got 20 likes with 64 of you guys watching, so let's get to 50 likes if we can, if you guys are enjoying this edition of the Senior Bowl Jets Report with my guy Ali, who is down there in Alabama. So I want to hear another quick word from the man of the hour, which is Robert Salah. He had a lot to say, and this is different because this is kind of his approach for the Jets offseason that I want to talk about. So this is Robert Salah once again speaking to the media. I think he was asked about the defensive line and how he values that defensive line. So let's hear a quick word from Salah so we can break this down. Hold on one second. All right, we got to share the video file. Here we go. Here's Salah.
Obviously, the on the fence answer is going to be we want to improve everywhere. But you guys know how I am with a pass rush. It's the one group that makes everyone better on defense, and it's the one group that can take away everybody on offense. And so improving our defensive line is always going to be, even when it is as good as it's going to get, we're always going to want to improve that group. And so it's something that we're always looking at. It's something that we will always look at, no matter how good we get it.
So this is really good to hear because we all knew this about Salah, but man, oh man, is he all about the line of scrimmage and the pass rush. And we know that the Jets defense last year just did not get to the quarterback as often as we would like. I think injuries played a huge role in that. Joe Douglas's vision of that defensive line did not get to see what it can do because of Carl Lawson and Vinny Curry being out for the entire season and Bryce Huff being out for the majority of the year. So all of our edge rushers were basically injured. We had John Franklin Myers playing out of position. So if that's the priority, what are the Jets going to do on this defensive line in the offseason, whether it's free agency or the draft? Are they going to maybe find a guy like Jermaine Johnson late in the draft? Are they going to find a guy like Kayvon Thibodeau that falls to them? Are they going to sign a defensive tackle? I would not be shocked if the Jets drafted a defensive tackle earlier in this draft that most people probably will not expect because of the value of that defensive line that they're trying to get. They're trying to get to the quarterback, and that is the bread and butter of this defense. I feel like people need to realize, you see what the San Francisco 49ers defense was doing that led them all the way to the NFC Championship game. It's the same exact scheme, same exact system. They got 4 men up front that gets to the quarterback with ease, and that's what the Jets need to do in order to become a defense that scares people. So what's your thoughts about what Robert Salah had to say about that, Ali? Are there any pass rushers in particular on the defensive line that you are seeing in the Senior Bowl that the Jets could be targeting? And what are your thoughts about Joe Douglas and Robert Salah's approach of stacking that line of scrimmage?
Yeah, again, they said early in the press conferences that they want to attack the offensive line, defensive line, and that's where the game starts in the trenches. Like I said earlier, the defensive line dominated the offense the entire time at the Senior Bowl. I feel like the offense obviously had some wins here and there, but the defense as a whole, there was playmakers all over the board, and everyone's favorite, Jermaine Johnson, everyone has heard of him already. He was outstanding. I think he's a really good prospect, and he definitely boosted up his draft stock during this time at the Senior Bowl. He was very effective. He was getting back by his the offensive line easily, and getting to the quarterback. And he was very effective. And every single rep, I said this in Ryan's stream the other day. Every single rep he's getting there. Like, there was no wasted reps for Jermaine Johnson, and that's hard to do as a pass rusher. we all know the top guys. We all know the top edge rushers in this draft. But there's little guys that are coming in and making a mark of themselves. Jermaine Johnson's one of those guys. He was very fun to watch, to keep an eye on the entire Senior Bowl. But another guy I would transition a little bit more in that it's not getting enough looks at Zach Carter from Florida. He was all over the place as well. He was effective. He had great footing. He showed a lot of explosiveness, and he was beating the offensive line like Jermaine Johnson was, just on the other side of the football. So I think there's a lot. I could probably name a couple more that were pretty good, but just know that there's a lot of defensive linemen in this Senior Bowl that will get drafted by a lot of teams, and we'll be happy with them because of how effective they were. You saw the grit in them. You saw them getting to the quarterback, being their assignment, and I feel like the defense just was winning the entire time.
Yeah, man, that's great to see. And you see everyone in the chat is all in on the Jermaine Johnson hype. George says, sign me up for Carl Lawson and Jermaine Johnson. Bobby says, Johnson is better than Karlaftis, in my opinion. So, hey, look out for Jermaine Johnson. I know that his draft stock is skyrocketing, and maybe he could be an option for the Jets at number 10, potentially, if, we do not get an edge rusher at number 4. So, say, hypothetically, we go offensive line at 4. We get a Kwanu or something, and then the Jets want to go trench work, and they get Johnson at 10. You never know what could happen. I feel like Johnson's draft stock is definitely going up, 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 and up. So there's a lot of things to get into, guys. There's something I do want to bring up that we did not talk about yet on this channel, which is very, very unfortunate news. And that is the announcement that Cam Clark will be retiring because he does not want to risk his neck injury. It's really serious. We all know that he left training camp last year, was out for the entire season. So, obviously you hope that it's, that he's okay mentally, he's okay physically, and he can, live the rest of his life with a peaceful mind, because that's going to take a big, big toll on him mentally. So let's hope that Cam Clark is okay. Definitely just terrible news. That's a pick that a lot of Jets fans felt like he could be a big time piece for this offensive line depth wise for the future. And it's just really unfortunate that his career had to get cut short. He never even got one opportunity to take one snap on the field in the NFL. So shout out to Cam Clark. Hopefully he's okay. And definitely some devastating news that we had to bring up. So, yeah, man. I mean, there's nothing really else you can say about that. It's just very upsetting news because Cam Clark.
That's kind of like Quincy, to be honest. That's kind of like Quincy, right? He had a neck injury. He had multiple neck injuries, and that's why he's not in the NFL. Great player, great. It's the same type of injury, and Quincy was probably one of my favorite players when he was here. And it was awesome to see him play football, but the neck injuries were way too much, and that's why a lot of teams don't like taking shots. He might want to play still, like Quincy might want to play still. We don't know yet, but people are just not going to take a chance with a guy with that many injuries with the neck, and then obviously he had to retire as well. So that sucks. That's really sad.
Yeah, definitely really sad, and I think that's going to make sure that's going to tell me that Joe Douglas is going to draft probably more than one offensive lineman this year. I would say they draft one early in the first round, and I would not be shocked if they draft another one later in the draft, maybe in round 3 or 4, because this Jets offensive line needs depth. Obviously, we got George Fant, and I would love to hear your thoughts about this report, LD. I made a whole video on it, but we found out a couple days ago, Robert Salah says that the left tackle position is going to be up for competition. It's George Fant's position right now, and Mekhi Becton's going to have to fight his way up to take it back from him. I kind of like this move because George Fant proved that he could be a Pro Bowl potential at that left tackle spot, and he's only getting better in the system, and he proved to be, one of the best left tackles in the NFL when it comes to pass protection. And that's not a knock on Mekhi Becton, because it's not like Mekhi Becton's losing his job because he didn't play well. It's simply because he was not healthy and not on the field. So George Fant took advantage of his opportunity. So what's your thoughts about Mekhi Becton and George Fant having a competition for that left tackle spot? What do you predict is going to happen from that?
First of all, I'd give applause to the coaching staff. That's the right approach. I know we all like Mekhi, we all like him, and a lot of people are trying to give up on him, but still, he needs to fight back for his position. If George Fant, the way he's playing that we saw all last year, and we raved about him, yeah, he deserves a spot. He deserves a chance to get the left tackle spot, no matter who is there. He played well, and Makai is not guaranteed the spot. It's an open competition, and that's what you should have. That you need to fight for your spot back. If you're really worth the pick that we gave you, prove it. Go out there and play well and beat George Fan in training camp. And that's the right approach that Salah is doing. Is that if you miss time and someone steps up and they're good, you're not going to replace them. That's the same thing with happening with quarterbacks. If the quarterback comes back, but like Mike White's playing well, Mike White's going to be in the game. So like it just goes both ways. You need to fight for a spot, and that's a good culture thing too. That people are fighting and people are ready to go, because then that tells the locker room and puts them on notice. If you slack, you might get replaced. No matter how much money you're getting paid, no matter how high of a draft pick you are, if you do not play well or you miss time and someone else is playing better than you, they're going to take over your spot. So I think that's the right approach from Robert Salah and his coaching staff.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is a really good sign from the Jets coaching staff that they're having the approach of, nothing is given, everything is earned. And I also feel like this is something that's going to benefit Mekhi Becton, because Robert Salah said that he has every single chance to be an elite player in this league. He just needs to put his mind to it. And I feel like that's really what's separating Mekhi Becton from being a great player. I think he has all the physical talent. I think the mind needs to make sure he gets connected to his body to get himself in shape, make sure that he's working out, and making sure that he attacks this offseason at 100% effort. Because I genuinely believe with 100% healthy Mekhi Becton and in shape Mekhi Becton, I think he will beat George Fant in the left tackle position just because of the potential that he truly has. But say hypothetically George Fant wins that job and Mekhi's over on the right tackle spot. It's a good problem to have. Like, this is not a negative thing. I don't want people to say, oh, what is going on? Like, Mekhi Becton's a bust. Like, no, it's not a bad thing. The only thing holding Mekhi Becton back is his injury concerns. And that's going to be really, interesting to see what the Jets do when it comes to that tackle position. Are they going to re-sign Morgan Moses? If not, are they going to draft another tackle at that number 4 spot in the draft? So I do like his approach from the coaching staff. That's the biggest takeaway for me personally, is that Robert Salah is setting a standard, setting a culture in this locker room that if you slack, you're going to be replaced, and nothing is given in this league. I don't care where you were drafted. I don't care how much money you're making. You need to be able to prove to the coaching staff that you have what it takes to handle the pressure mentally and be in a physical enough shape to handle the pressure of being a starter for the New York Jets. And I think that this is just, a good thing for the New York Jets, that we have a competition at that left tackle spot. Because you know what that means? That we have 2 guys capable of playing at that left tackle position, which we don't really have in a long time. So guys, we're going to open this up to a Q&A. Any questions you guys might have for Ali regarding the Senior Bowl, any questions you might have about the Jets regarding the offseason, anything you want to talk about, feel free to let us know in the chat. We'll try to get to as many questions as possible. There's a lot of things to get into regarding this offseason with the free agency, whether it's the trades, whether it's the draft, whether it's the Senior Bowl, whether it's Joe Douglas's plan, his approach. There's so many factors that's going to go into the decisions leading up into this offseason. And I just want it to come already, man. I just don't want to sit here and wait to see what the vision is for this damn team. So guys, make sure you smash that thumbs up button if you did not already. We got 43 likes with 83 of you guys watching. So if you guys are just joining in, don't forget to smash that like button. I would greatly appreciate that, so we get as many Jets fans in here as possible to talk about the Senior Bowl, talk about the New York Jets offseason. Let's get into it, man. Let's get into it. So everyone in the chat, George wants Carl Lawson and Jermaine Johnson. I see you, man. Who is the Senior Bowl bust player so far? Ali, is there any player that is not living up to the hype, that kind of is looking like a player that's a bust, or you haven't really noticed a player like that?
I didn't really notice the players, but the quarterbacks have not been great. I guess Willis is probably the best quarterback there, but the rest of the quarterbacks just kind of like iffy. Like, the throws are not there. They're not really in stride or anything like that. So I was very disappointed on a lot of drops, lots of them. Bone Melton, I actually was high on him, being a speedster. He was just not catching anything. The tight ends were catching much better than the wideouts. It was just plain and simple. McBride, Ruggert, Ferguson, they're all catching much more passes than the wideouts. So I think the wideouts were just not great. I wish Dotson was there to maybe liven up the wide receiver core a little bit there at the Senior Bowl, but overall, I think the wide receivers are dropping passes. and the quarterbacks just weren't that great besides maybe Willis.
George says, hi, Ali. Ron Middleton seems to show more love to Ruckert as opposed to McBride. Do you see Middleton doing that? Maybe he's talking about his press conferences.
Not really.
Hey man, Ruckert's a Long Island native. Bring him in.
Yeah, I mean it's a good story to have if the Jets want to sell some tickets for the stadium. But McBride is all around better tight end. He's just playing. He's literally can do everything. He's a beast. I maybe saw like once or twice he dropped the ball and that was in rain. McBride was on point. He was running routes and the quarterbacks loved him because the wideouts were not catching anything. So McBride was the one that was stepping up, catching the football. But again, he's a good option as well. If the Jets don't go early to grab McBride, he has good route running. He's great catching ability, and I think he's advances that offense a little bit more too. So I'll be fine with both of them. I think Rucker might be a better fit, but McBride is just a guy that probably can just come in and work.
And Jose asks, who has flashed so far for you in practice? Anybody that you already brought up or you didn't bring up?
McBride.
I
don't want to keep going. Want to keep going about McBride, but
McBride,
he was a
please.
star.
Hunter's on the.
He was a star of the offense. He was literally the star of the offense. He was not dropping passes. Simple.
Ruckert went to Nick's High School in Lindenhurst. I see you, Nick. I'm from East Meadow. Shout out to Long Island, baby. Love it. What's up, David? Welcome into the stream, my man. Edward agrees on McBride, don't we all? I love it, Edward. Jets forever. McBride is so dominant. What is the weakest position group at the Senior Bowl so far? That's a good question.
Oh, that's a good question. That's actually a really good question. I would say the wide receivers or the offensive line. Yeah, the offensive line has one or two good guys like Zion Johnson.
Trevor Penning.
Yeah, but there's very little offensive line that we're able to control that defensive line. Obviously, they're a little bit. The defensive line is just like overall they were just dominant, but the offensive line just sucked. I think one or two guys I could probably point down and be like, okay, they did well on the offensive line, but other than that, it's pretty crappy. The wide receivers. They weren't that great. I feel like after Dawson left, it kind of went downhill from there. I did like one, what's his name? Christian Watson. He was the only one making plays as the wide receiver core. Bo Melton got so many opportunities. He kept dropping the ball. He is a rucker, so I was kind of watching him a little bit more than usual. But he was dropping passes. It was just not working out for him. But Christian Watson from North Dakota State, he was making plays. He was catching the ball in rhythm. He had a lot of screen passes that he was catching, so he was kind of all over the field. He had a couple bad drops as well, but he did enough to be like the number one wide receiver in my eyes.
Love that. So we already talked about Kobe Bryant, but Hunter's asking about your thoughts about him. It's not spelled like that, but what's your thoughts about Kobe Bryant?
He's good. I think the quarterback group is not that great either, but I think he's one of the guys that stood out to me. I wish Dotson was there because I feel like Bryant against Dotson would have been a good matchup to see and a real test for Bryant. But again, he was locking up what wide receiver would come up. His assignment, good footing. Not many penalties called on him, especially day 2 because that's when the refs were there. So on day 2, there was not many people there were people that were throwing flags and everything, but he wasn't called a lot on. So I think that's a good thing to have as a quarterback, especially in the NFL. So yeah, I think he's a great player. I think he's not the best but the quarterback group just wasn't that great.
Orphanage builder DeGrom says, hey Lee, is it just me or does Kenny Pickett throw the ball barely any zip? He looks like he's putting his full strength to throw a 40-yard pass. So what's your thoughts about Kenny Pickett? Even though the Jets won't be looking at him, but we all love to hear what's going on with the quarterback position every single year in the draft. Ali, I think you're lagging out a little bit. Ali? Technical difficulties on Alabama's Wi-Fi.
It was.
There you are.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Can you
we
hear me
didn't hear
now?
anything you said. Yeah,
Okay.
just
I
repeat everything.
I didn't say anything, but but I said for Pickett, I think he just doesn't have that. He's a project player, project quarterback. Obviously, I wasn't paying attention to the quarterback position as much because we don't need a quarterback. But Pickett was. I didn't like the quarterbacks there as much. Willis was probably the most fun to watch, but other than that, Pickett had some great throws, but there's a lot of plays that just the wide receiver bailed him out. So I kind of agree with that, but Pickett was just not as great as I thought it would be.
How many players do you think the Jets draft from the Senior Bowl? I think the San Francisco 49ers, when Salah was over there, they coached the Senior Bowl. I think that's the draft when they got Deebo Samuel. And they took a lot of players that they were coached up in the Senior Bowl. I think it was 4 or something like that. So I think the Jets are going to be drafting a ton of players from the Senior Bowl, whether it's 2 or 3 at least minimum, because I feel like the Jets are getting a really good understanding of the values of these players and their mentality. If you guys saw what Robert Salah had to say, he's valuing the mentality of these players, how they can deal with adversity, how they can handle an NFL playbook and all that stuff. And that goes a long way. There's only so much you can learn from a draft pick when you meet them in person one-on-one and when you get to see their tape. I mean, there's so much more to these prospects, and the Jets are getting a chance to see what they can do with adversity. What happens when they drop a pass? What happens when they miss a block? What happens when they do this? Because that's what really shows your true character. So how many players do you think the Jets are going to be drafting from the Senior Bowl? Just hypothetically, prediction, Ali.
I could say 2 to 3 players. I feel like their roster is pretty talented. I feel like they definitely need to draft one of these tight ends, man. They've seen them, they worked with them, and they succeeded very well. Maybe an offensive lineman, maybe a wideout, maybe a running back instead of the wideout. And maybe a cornerback, possibly. But I could see at least 2 or 3.
2 or 3 is definitely something that I agree with. Let's see. Ali's internet is going in and out, so bear with Ali. So, guys, I'm going to play another clip from Salah because I played this in the beginning of the stream, so I'm assuming everyone did not see it. But here's what Robert Salah had to say about what he's looking for in the most from the Senior Bowl, the type of players he's looking out for, because I think this is really awesome to hear what Robert Salah has to say, because every time I hear him speak, I just start believing in him a little bit more and more. Obviously, he has a lot to prove. You can speak, you can talk the talk, but you got to be able to walk the walk. I just want to show you guys what Robert Salah had to say here.
We've always said you could hide at the combine, but in a week's worth of work, it's a lot harder to hide. So one of the things, the biggest thing is going to be mental, their ability to absorb the playbook. So we bring in a playbook that's not so hard that they can't get it, because you only got a week to install it, but we also don't want it to be so easy where you don't get the information you need with whether or not they can absorb the information you're giving them. So the mental part is really, really, really big on how much they can grasp and how quickly they can grasp it. Because if you think about an NFL game plan, it's changing every week. So this is basically like an NFL game plan. But the other part to it is this: you'll see it in terms of there's going to be adversity for these kids this week. Someone's going to drop a ball, they're going to miss a block, and they're going to feel. I mean, think about the pressure that is on all these young men to perform their job. And under this light, under this pressure, when they make a mistake, what do they look like? How do they respond? Can you pick something up that tells you that, shoot, when he gets to New York and he gets pounded for something, can he handle it? And that's a real thing. So it's those are all things we're always looking at.
I just love everything he just said there, man. I just absolutely love that he's valuing the mental side of the game of football, because I don't know, I'm still living in the world. Like, I put myself back into the reality of when Adam Gase was our coach and just watching his press conferences, like, dude, this guy is an absolute clown. Like, why is he the Jets coach? But now flipping it over, seeing Salah speak to the media. I know he has not won anything yet for the Jets. He's coming off his first season. But every time I hear him talk, man, it's everything I ever wanted in a coach. And I really, really love his approach to the game and what he values in his players. I really do. And that's why I keep showing that clip, because it makes me happy. It makes me happy. Listen, guys, there's so much things that the Jets coaching staff needs to fix. I understand that, but I love it. Jose says, hey, Ali, you are a tough evaluator, and I like that. Tell me your top 2 D-backs.
My top 2. Okay. So I would probably say Kobe Bryant from Cincinnati. He's a guy that kind of like sparked defense a little bit. He's one of the only cornerbacks that I feel like was with the receivers, has good footing, and again, he just was doing what a cornerback should. Not the best competition he's going up against, but whatever came at him, he was ready for it. And he always stayed with his assignment. He always did. It didn't look like he was lost at all. And I truly believe he could be, like, if they develop him correctly, I think he truly could be someone that they can work on and make him a decent cornerback at least. The other cornerback, what was his name? Joshua Williams. He's from Fayetteville State. He's also a guy that made here and there plays. He was lost at times, but if I had to rank someone at the second, it probably would be him. He was making plays here and there. He was his length also helped, and I think he could be really good. Try to get the ball and get an actual interception for you to make a play for a team. But yeah, I think he was more he was not better than Kobe Bryant at all, but he was the one that stayed with the slot receiver. He made some nice plays. Just overall, the DBs was not that great either, and wideouts were that was kind of just it was just weird. It was hard to evaluate that as much as possible, but those two probably are the best that I saw.
Interesting. Neil says, thoughts on the mock draft with Ekwonu at 4 and Garrett Wilson at 10. I think that this is becoming more reality by the second. I feel like Ekwonu at number 4. I think that the Jets need to realize that you need to take someone at 4 that's in the trenches. And I feel like if Neil's gone, if Hutchinson's gone, and Thibodeau's gone, then I think Ekwonu is going to be the pick at 4. And then when it comes to number 10, Garrett Wilson, I know there's a lot of people that are, on the fence about which wide receiver to take at 10, whether it's you're a Drake London fan, a Treylon Burks fan. But Garrett Wilson fits all the boxes about the separation. And if the Jets want to surround Zach Wilson with the talent, like Connor Rogers is saying, I would not be against this. But then at the end of the day, I really want to make sure we get an edge rusher in this draft, because that's a big time need for this defense. How would you like this mock draft potentially? Ekwonu at 4 and Garrett Wilson at 10, Ali?
I mean, you're pretty much going defense and offense, and that's kind of what we want, right? A lot of people want that. I'll be down for that. I feel like the Jets do need to add another wide receiver. So I wouldn't mind it. I just would question it here and there.
Yeah. Let's see. Linderbaum is the pick at 4. Jets forever is sold on Tyler Linderbaum. I would love him at 10. I just don't think that he's going to last there. I feel like he's going to be a giant. That's my instincts. They're definitely going to try to build that offensive line. But listen, I know that's a big controversial topic amongst Jets fans, a center or no center, but we'll see. And he says, Stan the man, Jets should draft on 10 center. I agree. Joey R. Jets should target Treylon Burks at 10 since he is a freak and mismatch at the wide receiver position. This is my favorite wide receiver in the draft, Joey. I feel like he would fit this system absolutely beautifully. He could be our version of a Deebo Samuel in terms of being versatile and lining them up pretty much anywhere. He can go up and get the ball on the boundaries, the 50-50 catch. He can beat you deep. He can take the ball out of the backfield. He's 6'3.5". He's got gigantic hands. His route running is crisp. He's just a really good prospect that I feel like if the Jets want to get explosive playmakers around Zach Wilson, Treylon Burks fits that mold. in my opinion.
Can I say something? So
Yeah.
there was a guy that was asking about Leon O'Neal earlier. I forgot. I can't find him now.
Here it is. I got it.
But there's a story about Leon O'Neal that I wanted to break. A lot of people don't know it from actual camp, from the practices on Tuesday. He dropped 4 consecutive balls in the drills, and he ended up going to the sidelines to do push-ups. He has not had the greatest Senior Bowl practices. He has made some plays, but I feel like maybe he wanted to like go over there just to make sure like put him accountable. But like that was fun. A lot of people just don't do that. He just went to the sidelines to do push-ups after just not being effective on drills. So he wasn't flashy. Whenever we saw him make a spark, we were like, oh, Leon O'Neal's alive. He's actually making a play. So he was very rare sighting at the Senior Bowl.
Interesting.
But I like that little story though. Like he went to the sidelines and did push-ups.
Yeah, Leon O'Neal. If you don't play well on the practices, go prove to the coaches that you're committed and get your head straight. Do some push-ups. I love it. Big Joe with the super chat. Thank you so much for the $5 donation. It means a lot to the channel, my man. Appreciate you. Do you think the Jets or anyone in the NFL will be scouting the USFL this coming spring? I would think so. I remember that everyone in the NFL was scouting the XFL when that was a thing. So any of these, smaller football leagues that's coming out, I wouldn't be shocked if they're scouting because, the NFL is a big time business, and they're trying to get as many people in there as possible. We saw people from the XFL actually play in the NFL and show some success. So maybe the USFL is going to be that new program. I don't know. I'm not saying it's guaranteed that there's going to be scouts there, but I wouldn't be shocked if there is. Appreciate the donation though, Big Joe. Do you think there'll be scouts at the USFL this spring? It's the league that's happening, the United States Football League. Ali?
What happened?
Do you think that there will be any scouts at the United States Football League?
Probably not.
Probably not.
Maybe.
Well, what happened to the
actually,
XFL? XFL is coming next year, I think. Go on.
Really? I haven't looked in the XFL at all, but there's a lot of XFL teams. There was a lot of like XFL team like scouts that were there at the Senior Bowl. But FSU edge Jermaine Johnson, who we all love, is not practicing today. We don't know the reason, but he's not practicing today. So there's some news there. That's something to keep an eye on.
Hopefully it's not an injury because that's not good.
Yeah.
Good thing Damian Woody will be working with Becton in his weight. Is that true? I didn't know that. Is Damian Woody working with Becton? That would be sick.
Wow.
Hire Woody as an assistant on the coaching staff. Like, why would you not do that? I'm so down. I know that he's pursuing a career for ESPN, but let's get him on the Jets coaching staff. The CBS Sports Mock has a Kwanu at 4 and a Jabo at 10. Would you be against that? I would not be. I feel like trenches on both sides of the ball would be great. I don't know if a Jabo fits the scheme, but a Jabo is a great prospect, and we need any edge rusher possible. So there's going to be so many different scenarios heading into this draft. What do you think about London? Would he fit our scheme? I see a lot of Jets fans falling in love with Drake London. I just don't personally think that he fits the scheme, but who am I to want to say that? I just feel like the Jets scheme needs a player with route running ability that can create separation with ease, like an Elijah Moore, like a Treylon Burks, like a Garrett Wilson. I know that Drake London's going to be a 6'5" nightmare. You can compare him to Mike Evans style. I just don't feel like the Jets are going to take a flyer on Drake London if I had to guess, but I could be completely wrong for all I know. Great show, guys. Later. Thank you, D. Santana. Thank you for tuning in. Yep, I saw a story yesterday that Woody will be helping Becton. I love that.
Interesting.
Thinking now, trade down from 10 to get Jermaine Johnson in mid-first. Hey, man, if we don't get an edge rusher at 4, I'm down for this because we need to make sure we get an edge rusher in the draft because you heard what Robert Salah had to say, and I'll play it again just so you guys understand how much he values the defensive line. Like, listen to Salah right here.
Obviously, the on-the-fence answer is going to be we want to improve everywhere, but, you guys know how I am with a pass rush. It's the one group that makes everyone better on defense, and it's the one group that can take away everybody on offense. And so improving our defensive line is always going to be, even when it is as good as it's going to get, we're always going to want to improve that group. And so it's something that we're always looking at. It's something that we will always look at, no matter how good we get it.
So obviously Robert Salah values pass rushers, and I think that he's going to be like, hey, Joey D, I understand we need to surround Zach Wilson, but give me somebody in the first round that I can develop in an edge rusher, in a Kayvon Thibodeau, in a Jermaine Johnson, and anybody in that realm, because we do need somebody opposite side of Carl Lawson if you want to become a 4-man wrecking crew on that defensive line, along with Quinn Williams, along with John Franklin Myers, and the rest of the wrecking crew. So, guys, we approach the hour mark, and I'm going to be finishing off the stream now. If you guys have any other questions about the Senior Bowl, let us know before we end off the stream. Ali, is there anything that you're hearing from the Senior Bowl that you would like to say before we end it off? Just recapping the Senior Bowl report and what you expect from the big game on Saturday.
Yeah, I can see a lot of these guys stepping up. A lot of guys that we don't expect to step up. I'm very curious on how they play on the offensive line, and then how these wideouts do on the Senior Bowl, because these wideouts have been dropping passes left and right. And I feel like the tight ends have been so consistent on catching the ball, running great routes, great blocking, that we'll see how that progresses into the game. And if McBride definitely has a solid game and he goes off on Saturday, he is locked for the first round, somewhere in the first round. Like, there's no doubt in my mind, because he's just been that great of a player. And I think he turned a lot of heads at the Senior Bowl in the last 3 practices. He was just very effective. But Ruckert also has been effective. So there's a lot of good tight ends in this draft class, and they need to grab 1 or 2 in this. Like, they have to, especially with the guys that they're coaching. So, I'm curious to see how everything progresses. I won't be here for the Senior Bowl game. I'm going home tomorrow. That's just something to watch, definitely, for the Jets purposes, and how. And you also got to look at the coaching staff, right? This new coaching, Middleton, new offensive coordinator. We'll see how they do in the Senior Bowl. How well did they prep these guys in a week? That's also something to keep an eye on. All these backup who are taking higher roles at the Senior Bowl get to coach a game. So that's gonna be fun to watch, to see how they train them, and how like Robert Salah and the Top Guns have trained these guys too. So it's definitely gonna be fun to watch. But definitely, as Jets fans, keep an eye on the offensive line, the edge, the tight ends, and maybe even the running backs, and maybe even the wideouts. So there's a lot to watch for them.
Yeah, man, the game is this Saturday at 2:30, I believe. So stay tuned for that. I'll be posting videos about the Senior Bowl leading up until there. If you guys are new to the channel, don't forget to smash that subscribe button. We're approaching 10K. Help me out. Get to 10,000 subscribers. And don't forget to like the stream if you guys did not already. Let's finish off this with around 75 likes. If you guys did not already, smash that thumbs up button. I greatly appreciate that a ton on the channel. So that's going to recap the Senior Bowl report here on Jets Media with my boy Ali, reporting live from Mobile in Alabama, giving us some inside information of what he's seen personally at the practices. Again, the Senior Bowl will be kicking off this Saturday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern time, so stay out for that. And guys, I appreciate all the support on Jets Media. Of course, stay tuned for more content, and we'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day, and have a great weekend.